Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Stollings. You know me here on YouTube as MarauderX, and as always I'm your host for Operation Recap, where I take some of the stories from Rainfall.com and I throw them here on YouTube to give them a little more love and attention. You know, it's what I do, it's my thing, it's my hobby, it's my passion. Anyway, let's jump into this week's stories. We got a couple that are kind of interesting, I'm a fan of. First off, Lightning Returns will have dual audio, except it's going to be DLC. Okay. So, for those of you who are purists about your voice acting, the first 2 weeks, Lightning Returns will be available for free. You can download the Japanese voiceover pack, as it's called, which will have the Japanese audio as well as the lip-syncing animations to make sure you're not doing bad dubbing. So, that's good news, especially if you are a purist. If you don't really care, if you prefer to hear it in English, or, you just don't care, But there are a lot of people who really dislike American voice actors in games. And anime, I don't understand that. I've never got that level of hatred for that. But I mean, I'm sure someone is going to point out why. But I personally never got it. But for the first 2 weeks that Lightning Returns is out, you can get it free. Afterwards, it will become paid DLC. So if you're really that hard up for making sure you have the Japanese voice acting and the lips that match, get it within the first 2 weeks because you can get it for free. Afterwards, you will have to pay for it. I don't know what the price structure is going to be for their DLC. They have not confirmed that, but it's there. So check that out when Lightning Returns. Next up, another Square Enix title, or story, rather. Possible story. So Square Enix has trademarked 2 games in English for the Dragon Quest series. Luminaries of the Legendary Line and The Seeds of Salvation have English trademarks. No word on whether or not it's going to be released in the US, if it's actually a Dragon Quest game, if it's a mobile game, what the deal is with it. There's been no word on it, and there's really been very little word on the Dragon Quest series in general. We are still waiting on Dragon Quest 7 and Dragon Quest 10 information. They said that it's coming out, and we've got nothing. But now we've got these 2 new things, and the Dragon Quest news is just kind of piling up, and we're not really hearing anything about it. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that these 2 titles are like maybe 3DS games that are getting ready to come out, or maybe a Wii U game, because, the Wii U kind of needs more games. But they're like the traditional Dragon Quest, because Dragon Quest 10 is an MMO. So hopefully it's more along the Dragon Quest 7, 8, 9 kind of line versus the MMO style. Because, a good single-player game is a good single-player game. Just have fun with it. So we're hoping that is the case, and that these 2 games will make it out in the US and European Union areas. Words. What can I say? So stay tuned to that, because we don't know. It's all very, very nebulous at the moment. And speaking of the UK, Nintendo has a Mario Mega Bundle, and this is a ridiculous bundle. Like, I'm kind of perturbed that I've already picked up a Wii U, because, and that I have no confirmation if this is coming out in the US or not. But it is a giant bundle. The picture has the Wii U with the new Super Mario Bros. Super Luigi U titles, Super Mario 3D World. It has one of the Mario-themed Wiimotes and a Mario hat, which was, I believe, a Club Nintendo reward. Pretty sure it was a Club Nintendo reward. So, if you haven't picked up a Wii U, they are doing their best to bundle up a bunch of stuff to go with it. So, it's making a little more of a, sweetened deal, so to speak, because there's been a lot of, its potential is not the same as the price range. Its hardware specs look like they compete more with the PS3 and 360 era, which is last gen, but they're charging almost a next-gen console for. It's a little. But Nintendo's always been about games being fun, not necessarily about graphics. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this. I have picked up a Wii U, so I'm hoping that their titles do turn it around. So, if you haven't picked up a bundle, and you're in the UK, pick up this giant bundle because it does look sweet. I really hope it does actually have the hat with it, because that hat's awesome. I have one. I would wear it, but I like this one better. And the last story is actually not a story. We have not really officially covered this, because there's really no need to. It's back and forth, but I do want to talk about it. So the PS4 has been released, and it's been out for about a week now, and it's been a fantastic week. For some people. For some. There has been word on the PS4 failing. And a lot of people getting either the blue flashing light of death or the red light of death. Everyone's trying to coin a new phrase like the red ring of death or the yellow light of death. I don't know why everything is of death. It's just... find a new way to describe your console kicking the bucket, please. But a lot of people are complaining, and by a lot, Sony's estimated about 4% of their consoles will hit this failure rate. Which, given the number of consoles they've sent out, not really a high number, but still it's a measurable percentage. Now, the downside to this is not really news. Every time a console is released, there's going to be bugs. Anytime any new piece of technological hardware is released, there's going to be a batch that just has bugs, because something just may not have gone right in the manufacturing process. Something may not have gotten attached properly. A capacitor may not have been soldered to the motherboard just the way it needed to. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and the more complicated we make them, the easier it is that there's going to be a single failing component that will be detrimental to the unit as a whole. Now, we did this last generation with the Xbox and the PS3. The Xbox had a ridiculous failure rate early on. I remember hearing something about 12% at its peak for red rings. So, not entirely sure if that number is accurate, but the red ring is a very common, noticeable event in gaming history. So you can see that PS3 had its shares. The Wii U even had its shares. There were Wii's that would not read the dual layer type discs. So there were entire batches of Wii's out there that would not play games like Smash Brothers, which was a detriment. So the PS4 is not without its share of problems like that. It is a piece of technological hardware. It is going to have some flaws just due to manufacturing differences. It's an inevitability. So while my heart does go out to those who did have consoles that were not completely functional, Sony is doing everything they can to make sure those people are taken care of and get a replacement console to them. I've heard as little as 3 to 4 days, and I've heard as much as 3 to 4 weeks. So here's hoping that if you do have a problem, heaven forbid you do have a problem, you are one of those on the lower end of the time frame spectrum to get your replacement consoles. Then that's it for this week's recap. So I'm going to go and I'm going to look up the Xbox One release that just happened technically today, as the day I'm recording this is its first day, but also last night at midnight is when it officially was. So I'm going to go keep tabs on that because console releases are kind of fun. Big deal. I'm going to go do that. I suggest you do the same. And check me out next week for a recap on maybe the Xbox One release, as well as other stories. So till then, later everyone.